Yeah, I've been shocked at how much prices have gone up. Even just for the like fits. It's like, no, no, Craig,
How
no,
are you, Gene?
no. Oh, I see the goodies.
Oh, excellent. Sounds good. I'll tell you what, if you just put them over there, and then I'll add them to my pie. Thank you.
Thank you, young lady. Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm diabetic. I have Ozempic. I have no choice. And so it was either that or insulin. Oh, yeah, no, yeah, no, I'm only on, how much you can have about. Amount is, it's only 0.5. Yeah, see, I'm only on, maybe barely. And so in that time, I've lost 25, 30 pounds, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, so you don't want that. And that's what my doctor said, that he said this dosage, which is light, you're doing what you need to do to have your sugars good. And you've lost some weight, so everything's fine. Whereas Bobby, he was on it and it was bothering her. And so I don't know if she's still on Ozempic or they changed it. For us, it was a way to manage your diabetes, but I don't know if she's still under it. So that's why I say it kind of depends on your doctor and yourself, whether you can, if it's a good thing or not.
Food time, in case you missed it.
Yeah, I heard. Thanks. Right. Well, it's not an easy situation. Yeah, and the other thing that I'm watching these days is how much salt. Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of, since what they're trying to feed us, let's go get the line. Your husband's already on his way. Okay. Yeah. So Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, oh, yeah.
Hello, how are you?
Thanks.
Good. We thought they're getting the word. Well, I was preparing after the years of law, so I didn't. Yeah. You can have go home.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice to do, and then people can look at that. Yeah.
Or maybe Florida wasn't supposed to look at it. Is there something? No, probably a family. Yeah, city minute, the best. Remember your night, I got to grab one. Thanks. We did. Yeah. That's, yes. Oh, nice.
We've been doing that for 35 years.
Wow.
Today they have, like, menu, I think they were selling it, they wanted to sell it.
Oh, that's too good to pass up.
So I got lasagna.
Oh, wow, that's a good deal. Did you not get it? Oh, that's. Anything can get dirty. But especially when it's that learned, we got. Yeah.
Everything on Thursday, they had the special.
Oh, that's nice.
Bring back.
Ron, we're going to Claris this month. She was just telling me about their huge discount because it's their anniversary.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It was really busy too.
Oh, I bet.
Swear to God.
Well, we did that one time, like 3 o'clock in the regular workday. And they just helped us. Yeah, I think it's a lot of folks who go.
That's the daughter. So she was helping and doing things. No, actually, I'm recovering. And her daughter.
Oh, very. I can do all this. You're missing a really good shepherd pie. Good corned beef.
You know, so.
Oh, I didn't know that for you. Right first and early.
What's that?
You're eating now.
Get the email, but the email.
I sent it out a couple days ago, and I sent it out early.
But you said
But I know they come out.
Your land do it very good. You may talk me into it, yeah. You didn't lay it on one. But he did make the slides. Might be persuaded. Because no longer, I'll be over to another fair. We'll be. Yes, right. The folks from Open House get done real quick.
They've done about, I don't really, after 6.
I have a brand new 65-inch television in my car.
Okay.
It's not in the box, because the box wouldn't fit in the car. And I have an 8-foot HDMI cord in the middle and all of that stuff. I mean, block space in here, but I feel like it could be unloaded in the next minute, so I don't find it.
I don't know.
No, she knows.
Chamber, yeah. And I don't want to update the word from up.
She was grateful to get the Let me go take a peek.
You can pre-order at the meeting, Jack.
But the email is like.
Okay.
That the meeting. But it's good to know if you don't find it, because sometimes some of the providers, Comcast, whatever, are very helpful and figure out what we have to do to get past them.
If you think you should worry, not worry, make sure it's locked up. I can go next door and talk about it.
Okay. You know, I'm waiting for.
Let me check.
It's like cheddar and Guinness.
It's not, no, I'm not scared of things right up to them. But I agree.
So Gary, what do you feed your worms?
Are they like the fat lady? They eat better than I do?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean catch in the middle, like.
Depends on what happens. We do a couple of different things. We grind grain. We use wheat, corn, oats, alfalfa seed, alfalfa, which isn't a grain, but alfalfa and timothy. They're both high in nitrogen. And there's one more, I can't think of all the ones in my head. Blend all of that, add a little moisture. And, then we also use, scrap vegetables that I get from the world, that are baked food bank.
My friend said, he does, he said his word love watermelon.
Oh,
They just.
yeah. Yeah, pumpkin is almost as good as this cantaloupe.
My email back today.
Any of the melons, they're the key
I've
purpose,
been
yeah.
emailing past year. Changed all of a sudden.
I mean, something with your provider, they all of a sudden thought.
Right. AI is the.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's not trying to dress it, that's right, you never thought of that.
Right after Halloween this year. We picked up about 120 pounds. And, chopped them up and frozen. About 40 or 30 of them then around our warehouse didn't get processed, and they're pretty much gone now. But that's still gonna last us for probably another month. But that's not feeding it. Right, so.
All right, everybody, we're gonna, let's Jerry finish this off, give him a few more minutes. So here's your next round of food or dessert, and then Jerry, once we finish, we'll get started. Welcome everybody tonight, and thanks to who all, Bobby, Jan, who all organized this one. Bobby mainly, okay.
Yeah, very good.
Very good. Thanks for everybody who's brought some, as always, really good sites. Sure. Let me try and find-
Okay.
Bobby, are you announcing that to the group? Well, since she's not here?
Yeah.
Are you announcing that to the group since she's not here? Okay.
Yeah.
Why did you, I don't think everybody could hear that.
For Jordan, we're having a baby shower next month. So.
Surprise, maybe, right? Surprise.
Surprise. She doesn't know that we're doing it.
Oh, she won't be here tonight. She's not doing it. Exactly.
Oh.
So bring appetizers, bring desserts. I don't know what. Anyway. But that's what they're gonna do. You're not obligated to get her a gift or anything, although if you'd like to. But, I have no idea if she's registered, I don't know.
That would be nice.
Yeah. We are
This is
gonna
our
have,
first baby ever.
we're gonna have a shower after, final meeting. Yeah, shower probably, so when you bring anything to eat, we're just gonna stash it. We're not gonna serve. We're gonna have our meeting for the plant sale like we usually do first, and then we'll have fun.
Sounds good.
Now, where do you want that from?
You're, if you go over about another, perfect.
Okay,
All right, ready to start?
whatever, whenever.
Okay, we'll turn the stage to you. Let you introduce yourself.
All right. My name is Jerry Collison, and as your promotional stuff said I'm Chief Worm Hoover at Northern Illinois Worm Farm. And we'll talk a little bit about that, and if I can get out of the camera for just a minute, I can't exactly give my card over the camera.
Cards out.
Okay, if you would, thank you, sir. And that card has my direct number on it. So if you got questions, if you got issues, whatever, anything that we can help with, feel free to give me a call. I check email multiple times a day, so you can email if you prefer. But we're available. We're not just here to sell worms, okay, and not just here to sell castings. Our biggest responsibility, we feel like, is education. And we're very interested in doing what we can to turn around what has been done to our soil and to our environment for the last 70 years with all the chemical poisons that have been used for so long. Yes, ma'am.
are you gonna talk at all about those jumping worms?
I don't know a lot about them.
Okay, I just was
I'll just tell you, if you see them, kill
I don't have to really be sure that I've seen one. That's my.
them. It jumps.
Really does jump, like how high?
Well, it just depends. I mean, here's an African night crawler. It just stays pretty much docile. All right. The European night crawlers and the red wigglers are very much the same. Now, the Africans, they will squirm around on the ground and they'll go quickly, but they stay on the ground. So that's the easiest way.
They really jump?
Oh, yeah, they really jump. And so, if you see a jumping worm, step on it.
Okay.
And since you brought that up, let me tell you about another invasive species that's coming into this area, and that's the hammerhead worm. The hammerhead worm is the only one that, if it's cut in half, won't have lid. Okay, all the other worms, if they're cut in half, just the head and lid. Okay. But with the hammerhead worm, and it gets that name because it's a flat worm that has a rectangular head, much like a hammerhead shark. They eat other worms. They eat a lot of the beneficial insects and things that are in the soil, and they damage roots.
Very destructive.
Very destructive. So if you see one of them, they're difficult to kill. I understand. I've not run across them, but that's one that you want to get rid of. So you do whatever you can to get rid of it. Now, if you look at my card, you notice that I didn't do like a lot of people, educated people that have their name and have their title and all that stuff behind there. I should have put on there Jerry Collison, DMN. So I just have to make sure that I get my qualifications out there. For those of you that don't know acronyms,
What is it?
DMN don't mean nothing. Okay, but the reason I say that, I do a lot of study, okay, and I am not an expert, okay? An expert, when I grew up, that was somebody, an ex and has been, and a spurts of grip under pressure. So, well, I may be a has been, but I'm not an expert, okay? But what I did is, I did a lot of study. I've read a lot of different studies and a lot of papers that have been written on worms, and especially on vermiculture and vermicomposting, what it can do, what its benefits are, what its drawbacks are. And I compiled a few of them in here, bullet pointed, so that, it's just little snippets out of each study, but I tried to get some of the key stuff, and each one is attributed, or at least partially. I didn't give a full bibliography, but if you want to research any further on any of this, you're welcome to give me a call, and I'll get you the contact information so you can read the entire study yourself. I find it fascinating. When I get into something that I don't know and don't understand, I like to learn as much as I can. So I started doing that. I'll put them up here and you're welcome to help yourselves to them. I also brought some suggested uses for landscape. A lot of people ask us, what can I do for my trees or my shrubs? I got a tree that isn't doing well. And so we've got some suggestions on there, primarily with the castings. Now, one other thing that I don't have on here, because it's not something that we stock all of the time, we can't, because it doesn't have any shelf life, but that's worm casting teeth. When you take worm castings, and I can give you a recipe, we give it out. I don't try to hide it. I have it available at farmers markets. I'm in Plainfield, and I'm in Aurora, as well as down at Newark, every week, at least through the first part of the growing part of the season. So the reason I mention that, I've got a lady over in Big Rock that has a tree that she's had for years, and I forget what kind of tree it is now. But she was having a little difficulty with it, and it had got the blight, and she was afraid she was going to lose it, but it's one that she's treasured for a long time. She had Davy Tree Service out there, and they pruned out over 40% of it. And she thought she was going to lose everything. But she called me up and she says, I know her from the garden club that I'm in Fox Valley. And she called me up, she says, Jerry, do you think your tea would do anything for my tree? And I said, I think it will. It works for everything else we've used it on. I mean, it does awesomely in a garden. Then I'll talk more about that later. But she got a couple of gallons of it from me and took it out there and sprayed the tree. When you spray the tea, it absorbs through the leaves. So you get a top feed to go along with the root feed. But in doing so, it stimulates the growth within the cellular walls. So you have insect protection because the bugs have too much trouble biting into a strong, healthy leaf. They go bug your neighbor. But along with that is it increases the health in the leaves and the other areas. So your tree or your shrub or your other plants are much more likely to be able to fight off the whatever pest is bothering them. And in this case, 2 months later, when Davy Tree came back out to check on the progress on the tree, they couldn't believe the growth and the regrowth that had happened. So we're in talks with Davy Tree right now to be doing some work for them. So I don't know if we're going to get it or not, but it scares me, to be honest. We're not big enough to handle what they need. So that means we're going to have to grow really quickly if we do it. But they're great people to work with. If you have any tree issues, they are some of the best that you can talk with. But anyhow, there's that. And then I brought some of our brochures or flyers that have suggested uses for the castings and the casting tea on the back side. So I don't know how familiar y'all are with castings. And I've been told you've got a member that has its own little worm farm, and that excites me. I'm sorry he's not here tonight. We don't look at ourselves as being in competition. Okay. I don't think he does either from what I'm told about him. We want to work with others. We want to develop a community of people that are using some all natural remedies for what has been done. There was a study done in Oregon last year among a group of farmers. And they have discovered that their soil is so depleted and in such bad shape from many years of using chemical fertilizers, chemical pesticides, and having no worms in the soil. They found that they didn't even recover their cost in the fertilizers that they put down last year. And that's because our soils are just in such bad shape, and they're getting worse every year. There was a study put out by, I believe it was, University of Illinois 2 years ago that said that, of the chemical fertilizers applied to fields, gardens, lawns, whatever, less than 50% of it is actually used by the plants because it's not in a form that they can use. So that 50% that doesn't get used goes into the water stream and you get to drink it. Doesn't that make you feel good? So our purpose is, our tagline is landfill reduction to plant production. So we try to get as much material as we can that can be reused and repurposed. We use that with the jugs that we use for the tea. We use that with bags. We use that for a number of other things. But also we get a lot of food scraps from the Aurora Interfaith Food Pantry that we compost and that we grind and use as feed for the worms. So we're trying to put that back in because every year there are 1 million plus semi-loads of waste food in the United States that goes to a landfill. Oh, well, multiple landfills. Okay, there's so much waste there. We want to put it back and put it into use. And I'm getting away from the camera. I'm sorry. I'm not used to standing in one place when I talk. I move. So if I walk away, yell at me, Ron. Okay, that's your job for tonight. Okay, and as I hope you've already seen, I'm not very formal. So if you got questions, give me a yell. Stick a hand up, wave at me, do something, throw something at me, whatever you gotta do, give me attention, and we'll go from there. Now, people ask me all the time, how did I get into this? Did I grow up wanting to be a worm farmer? No, I had no idea there was such a thing. In 2013, I came down with Guillain-Barré syndrome. And as a consequence, I didn't walk for about 4 years. And then I was on a walker and it took me a while to get back. I get a 6-hour IV infusion every 2 weeks, and that's the reason you see me standing up here tonight and able to walk. And I'm grateful. I'm very grateful for it because I about went out of my mind the first 4 years. I hate television. I got bored looking at 4 walls. I wrote 4 books because I wanted something to read that I liked. And so, but I wanted something to do. I've always been a physical worker. I've never been an office person. I've never driven a desk. I've driven a truck. I've driven a bus. I've driven a limousine. I've driven, if it's got 4 wheels on it or more, I can drive it. Okay. And I did a lot of that. And, just to be cooped up and unable to do anything. So I've been working to get myself back active. So I started raising microgreens in my basement. Well, I didn't have enough room and I didn't have the money to expand. So I didn't have enough to be commercial, but I was looking for a way to make a little bit of extra money. But another microgreen grower had something on a video that I watched talking about using worm castings in his microgreens, that they grew faster, that they germinated more quickly, and more completely. And I got to thinking, well, hey, that sounds interesting, but I was already outgrowing what I could do. So what good was it going to do me? But I got looking at worms because, like I said, I like to study. I like to learn. And so I got looking into it. And I got seeing how worms multiply rapidly under the right conditions. And I got to think, well, don't have room to do the microgreens. My wife doesn't really care for them. I like them, but I mean, how many can I eat? So, well, if you look at me, it looks like I did a bunch. But I started raising worms, thinking, well, I'm going to sell worms on eBay. I saw other people doing that. And I thought, well, put a little cash in my pocket, just something that, because disability checks don't go very far. So you know, I started doing that. Well, that was going really well until I started shipping worms, and the post office was killing them as fast as I could get them. So, you know, that wasn't working out too well. But when you have worms, you have castings. And I had to do something with them, and I heard they were good for the garden, so I threw them on my tomato plants. And about 3 weeks later, I called my brother and I said, we're looking at the wrong side of this business. My brother said this with me. I said, the value to the worms is in the castings. Because what it did for my tomatoes. My early girls that I planted May 15 were 7.5 feet tall, June 30. And they were so heavy with fruit that they broke the ties. I will admit, I didn't tie them up very well. But it was good enough the year before. Okay. That was enough to convince me that, hey, you know, we need to really get active with this stuff. Besides that, you know, early girls are normally about like this, just little ones. Mine are about like this. And sweet. I never tasted a tomato that tasted like that before. And they just get so much more flavor. So that's when we really started getting active with this stuff and started working it and growing it. Now, as you look through this folder, you will see some documentation on there from the studies that, well, for instance, here we observed that VC significantly increases the nutrient content of the growing medium. In particular, it increased the contents of available nitrogen and phosphorus by 133.3% and 256.7%. What will that do for your plants? You know, they're like crazy. Now, what happens? And I didn't, well, I have this bag of castings here that we will raffle off later. But the great thing about them, and there are suggested uses on the backside of the tag if you're not familiar with working with them. But this is full of active microbes and bacteria and other microorganisms that interact with others within the soil. People think, well, when you plant a plant, the roots go out, the roots find the food, right? Wrong. Roots go out there so that the microbes can come to the roots with the nutrients in the soil, and they can take the nutrients from the roots out to the other microbes in the soil so that you have a symbiotic relationship going on in the soil. So you don't have just dead inert chemicals that are out there that you're hoping your roots come in contact with and suck up a little bit of it. Instead, you have an active living microorganism set up in the soil that actually brings the nutrients to your plant. And they bring the nutrient that has been converted from just a chemical substance, but it converts it into a form that your plant can use and absorb. And then when it absorbs, then it can take it and actually do something with it. It's just been amazing as I've done some experimentation with this, what I'm finding and what I'm seeing. And no, I'm not a scientist. I can't put it down in a scientific formula. But I can tell you from what I see, what I taste, what a difference it makes. Our bags, you know, when you go to a big box store and you find castings, if you can find them, the companies take perfectly good castings and take them in and put them into a plastic bag, seal the top of it shut, punch 4 or 5 holes in the back side of it where it doesn't show when it's on the shelf, put it in a press, compress all the air out of it so that they can stack it up flat and put it on a pallet, let it sit in a warehouse for 60, 90, 120 plus days, and then put it on a shelf to sit there for 2 or 3 months before somebody purchases it. And when they get it, they've got brown dirt. Because there is no oxygen there to keep the microbes alive. we were learning that, and so we started using the sandbags. Because they're a polypropylene mesh that allows air to get in. That keeps the microbes alive. With that, because it's in that mesh bag, the oxygen and the air getting in there will allow the moisture in there to evaporate. So it gets dry and it gets crunchy and you lose a lot of the weight and you think you haven't got anything left. But when it gets rehydrated, the microbes, when they lost the moisture, just went dormant. If they lose the oxygen, they die. So when they have gone dormant and you put them in the soil, you add water, they reactivate and just take off and keep on going from where they are. So that's the reason our bag is a little bit different than you will find someplace else. Now, I'm not criticizing somebody else's product, okay? That's not my point. And I'm not saying that just to say I got the best. Well, I don't say that, I let my customers. But the idea, again, is we're trying to put something out there that is going to change the way that we're doing things in our gardens, in our lawns. And, what happens there. I saw a video about 2 months ago, it was taken last summer. This guy had been hearing about castings and that he's not a worm farmer or anything else. He just does experimentation and he has a big lawn that he likes to keep really fancy. So he decided he was going to take some castings and spread them on his lawn like fertilizer. So he did that. And 3 weeks later, he was sorry because he started having to cut his grass twice a week. That's not something that I did or anything that I had anything to do with. That's just something that I observed, somebody else's experience with it. And, that sort of thing I find fun, because again, what he had done where he had been spreading Scott's weed and feed or whatever you call it and all that other stuff. And in June, when he still had rain, his lawn was kind of brownish. But in July, when it was hot, over 100 degrees, but he had put castings out on his lawn and then he had a little bit of water out there. He didn't even have much rain, but it had things going. The castings, if you just take them and measure how much they will hold as far as moisture is concerned, they will hold 155% of their weight in water. So when you have a dry spell and you've got castings in the soil, it helps to retain the moisture. At the same time, because of their loose configuration, if you get too much rain, it allows the water to go on through. It will absorb and hold what it holds, but it doesn't keep your plants, the roots wet. It allows drainage. So it sounds kind of, backwards that it holds moisture, but yet it gives great drainage, but that's what it does. If you were to test that and say, you want to know what the NPK is, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, on this bag here, on a good day, you might get a 100. On a bad day, you get a 0.500. So you're not going to get just a bunch of direct plant food. What you're getting though, is you're getting the microbes that make the plant, the food available to your plant. And that's, yeah, yes, ma'am.
So if I have a garden, would I put those castings in before I plant, or once I plant, I throw them in the plants? Or?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. And how often should I throw them in the plants?
Yes. It depends on what you want and what you need. Okay. We are very specific and very careful. When you plant a tomato, you use exactly 1 cup. I mean, that means you do that. Drop it whole. Okay. these will not burn your plants because it's a 100 or a 0.500. The nitrogen is not going to burn your roots, but remember what I read, it gives you 150. Anyhow, it gives you a whole bunch of available nitrogen, okay? What it does is it makes what's in your soil available, okay? Now, in the breakdown process, as the stuff continues to break down in your soil, then it does release more nitrogen. Okay, so I was being humorous in answering you, but yeah, the thing with them is because they will not burn, you cannot use too much. I mean, it's hard in your pocketbook if you use too much. Okay, so we don't try to oversell and we don't try to tell you to use too much. We try to use, what you really need. If you have a good soil, then you don't need as much. But if you have a poorer soil, adding a little bit more will give you a boost. So if when you put your plants in the ground, your tomatoes, your peppers, whatever, that's about all I grow, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm here at a garden club and you're not looking at a gardener. I wish I was. I don't have time anymore. Okay, I'm too busy growing worms, but I do have the tomato plants because I love tomatoes. I love fresh tomatoes that are ripe instead of picked a week early so that they can, ripen on the shelf. Well, we're working with the Chicago Tomato Man. I don't know if y'all are familiar with him or not. He grows a lot of heirloom tomatoes. They're going to be using our castings in some of their prepared pots this year. And they're experimenting with them in their seed mix and their soil mix. So we're going to be doing a whole lot more than just their prepared pots. But Bob says about tomatoes at the store that they're just red water balloons.
Yeah.
Because
They are.
there's no flavor.
None.
Now, last summer, because my brother drives a truck all over the country, he doesn't have time to grow his own stuff and he loves tomatoes too. So I grow tomatoes for him every year. And last summer, off of 4 yellow cherry tomato plants that because he likes the yellow ones, are less acid. But off of 4 plants, I was sending him anywhere from a half a gallon to a gallon of tomatoes every week for him to take with him in the truck. And at getting toward the end of the season, he didn't have quite as much as he had. So I sent him the last batch of them, and he was out in Vermont. And he stopped at a roadside stand that advertised fresh tomatoes, and he bought a bag of yellow cherry tomatoes. He was excited. He said, if you wanted to know the definition of disappointment, it's eating somebody else's tomatoes. And so anyhow, he went to his customer up there who was giving him grief about, he says, I hear you're a worm farmer. He says, there isn't anything to that. That's just a bunch of bull. He said, they don't make any difference. And Ron says, I got a $100 bill that says you can tell the difference between these tomatoes that my brother grew and the tomatoes I just picked up at the stand down here. Organic tomatoes, no less. Guy said, yeah, right. I'm going to tell the difference. He said, I got $100, says you will. The guy said, I'm not going to bet you. Ron says, well, you say you don't make any difference. He said, I'm not going to bet you on it. So Ron says, try one of these. And he gave him one from down the road. The guy said, yeah, it's a tomato. So what? He pulled one out of the baggie that he had in his hand and handed it to him. He popped it in his mouth and reached out like that, snatched the bag. It makes a difference, it really makes a huge difference. Now, I got ADD and ADHD and I get distracted. I don't know where I was going.
That's okay.
You-
We're along for the ride. We're along for the ride. You just go in there.
Well, I just come in and have fun, so that's all I'm here for. You know, like I said, it's ought to say DMN. But, in answer to your question, you know, if you use it before you plant, you know, with your plants, if you put it in the hole, you put your roots right in the castings, it will not burn. But what it does is it just gives it a boost. If you plant, in row crops with seed, and as you're dropping the seed, if you put, say, an inch deep bit in the furrow, drop your seed in it, you can expect 30% faster germination, and you can expect 40% greater germination than you can get without it. So that's for beforehand. Now, once they get up out of the ground and they're going good, a lot of people like to top dress. So like maybe a month later, just go in and top dress, just give a good feed alongside the plants. You put it right up against the stalks. It doesn't matter because it will not burn. If you want to rake it into the soil a little bit, you can. It's not necessary. You can just leave it on top of the soil, especially if you've got rain coming, or if you're going to water. And I'm sure y'all know this, but don't use tap water when you water, because it's full of what? Chlorine. What is chlorine in your water for? Kill the microbes. What are you spending good money on this for? Put the microbes in the ground. Okay, so don't spend your money putting it in the ground and spend your money to kill it. You know, please use rainwater. If you can't use rainwater, put your water into a barrel or a bucket or something and let it sit for 24 hours and let the chlorine evaporate out. Yes, ma'am.
So we use a filter on our hose, similar to a filter that you would use in your ice maker, your water dispenser, and your refrigerator. You can buy them. They're inline filters. We have them on both of our hoses. One feeds our koi pond, so we definitely don't want any chlorine in there. But the other one now, we started putting them on our other hoses. It does make a difference.
Yeah, that's another solution. A lot of people don't want to spend the money to do that.
Not that much. And our water costs a fortune here,
Oh,
so
yeah,
you want to make sure that when you're putting it out there, it's not going to kill everything.
yeah, that is an excellent point. So, but yeah, in answer to your question, you know, the answer is when to put it down is yes. As long as your plants are growing and producing, then how many times a day do you eat? You look at me, you tell I don't miss meals. Okay, and I try to eat at least twice a day, and usually it's 3 or 4. And your plants are the same thing, okay? That they want to eat continuously. The more you feed them, the more they're going to produce. So, yeah, do it before you start them. That gets them up and gets them going. You do it a little bit along as they're growing. It keeps them healthy, because a healthy plant is going to be a strong plant. A strong plant is difficult for the bugs to bite, so they're going to leave yours alone and bug your neighbor. Now that's what I said I was going to talk about the tea a little bit. What we do with the tea is we take about a pound, half a pound to a pound of tea, castings, per gallon of water. Then we put an air line in there, to churn the water and allow it to bubble. If you're doing like a gallon or 2 gallons at a time, just an aquarium bubbler is sufficient. I like a little bit more oxygen than that, but since we're usually doing anywhere from 25 to 50 gallons at a time, you know, we have a much bigger airline. In fact, it came from a koi. So, you know, it's got good bubbling in there, but you allow it to churn. Oh, you also add 2 tablespoons per gallon of unsulfured molasses. Make sure it's unsulfured. If you use sulfur, what's the sulfur in there for? To kill the microbes, so that your molasses doesn't go bad. Okay, so you don't want to use the sulfur molasses. But then, you just allow it to, percolate there for 24 to 48 hours. You sift out the castings, spray it on the leaves, spray it on the roots. Wherever on the plant you can get it to touch, it will absorb in at that point. So you get, when you spray it on the leaves, you get the top feed of your plant to go along with the root feed. And, it's just amazing. Yes, ma'am.
After it rains, you have to reapply?
No. Because it will absorb within just a very little bit of time. By the time it's dried, it's pretty much been absorbed. Now, 2 years ago, I had 3 gourd plants come up out of my leaf pile. I thought they were pumpkins. I was excited. So every week I have tea left over after the markets, and the stuff it has no shelf life. You really need to use it within a couple hours when you're making it. But within 24 to 48 hours, because it rapidly degrades. When you're making the tea, you've got the air line in there. So you're oxygenating the water. So the microbes are reproducing rapidly within the water. Okay, but when you take that air line out, well, you don't have the oxygen going in there anymore, especially if you cap your bottle. That's kind of like putting the castings into a plastic bag. You lose it. So when you make tea, you need to use them right away. Or if you get it from me, I'm happy to provide to supply it to you. But you need to use it as soon as possible. Excuse me. But by using it that way, you just really make your plants pop up. Oh, I was telling you about my gourds. Yeah, I thought they were pumpkins. I was going out there every week when I get done with the markets on Sunday. I would go out there and I would spray plants. Well, I had the darkest, greenest, healthiest looking gourds you ever saw. And I was really excited because they were growing. You could actually see they had grown 6 inches or more overnight. Just because they had all of the nutrient there and all of the healthy stuff. So they were just going like crazy. My neighbor was kind of looking at them and wondering what was going on. And well, some of them grew over the fence into his garden, but he thought they were pumpkins too. And a few weeks later, I'm looking at them and I start to see some of the nodules coming up from the blooms, and I thought, oh man, here they're starting already, and there were a lot of them. I thought, man, I'm going to have more pumpkins. Well, I won't have to buy any worm feed at all this year. So a few days later, I look out there and I see this little yellow crook thing coming in. And man, you talk about disappointed, because I thought, well, they must be yellow squash, and I hate yellow squash. My wife loves it, but she wasn't going to eat that much. So they kept on growing. Well, a couple of weeks later, I went to pick a couple of them to let her have for lunch. They were hard. I couldn't figure out what was going on with their gourds. Well, off of 3 plants, I took 3.5 bushels of little crookneck gourds, just because they were getting tea every week. Well, once I figured out that they weren't pumpkins, I just kept on spraying them just because I wanted to see what they were going to do. But they ended up taking up well over 60 square feet in my backyard. So, yes, ma'am.
So what you're saying is, let me see if I got this straight. We have very limited space for plant or growth. So what you're saying is, if something comes up in your yard, if you put it around the root, it will, make it grow better,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
or even in a pot.
We have suggestions on here, for use, with pots, indoor plants
Yeah.
or potted plants.
Or a tree.
Or a tree, yeah. Depending on the size of the pot. Say you have just a little one, like a 4-inch pot, like you're starting something. We suggest about a tablespoon a month and just water it in. Okay, as you up pot, you add, a tablespoon per inch. So a 5-inch would take 2 tablespoons, 6-inch would take 3, and so on. Now, when you get to the bigger ones, well, then you just figure out what you're gonna need. But, yeah. That's indoors or out. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned potted plants, so I have a whole bunch of house plants. I put them outside in the summer because then they look really nice. I bring them in the fall, and by about this time of year, boy, they don't look so good.
Mhm.
Now, these plants are potted in purchased potting soil. There can't be any microbes in there, right? There's nothing in there.
Not a whole lot. Now, I take that back. There is some, because you've got bark. And generally shredded bark, and some other, organic material in there for the spacing of, peat moss or, cocoa coir or something like that. There will be some, but there won't be a lot unless it's been introduced. Because most of the time, that stuff has been sterilized.
Right, and it's
Okay.
in a sealed plastic bag. So best thing for me to do is maybe take some of my compost and mix it in.
If
with
you
my
have compost, absolutely.
And then
And
add,
anytime you use any sort of a soil mix, you need to add organic matter. Okay, organic matter that has not been bagged up. And if you've got compost,
I do.
that's great. Okay, what you have in compost is, you're gonna have a lot of of microbes and bacteria in there. The difference between what you have in compost and what you have in vermicompost is the worms have taken that compost and added to it, because the worms produce over 420 individually identifiable microbes that come from their gut and their gut only. And that's what works with the material in the soil. That's why it's so important to have worms in your soil. If you go out in the middle of one of these cornfields around here and dig down with a shovel, if you find one worm, you're doing well. Whereas it used to be, you found worms all over the place. Yes, ma'am.
So can I buy a bunch of worms with my flower beds?
Absolutely. That they do well there. There's one thing that a lot of people do is they have what they call worm towers, where they will take like a 5-gallon bucket or a gallon bucket or some other size thing with a lid on it. And they'll dig a hole and put it in. They bore a bunch of holes in the bottom of the container, put it in a hole in the ground and fill it back up right around up to the top. And then they have the lid on there. They'll take your food scraps, things like that, and put them in there and put the lid back on. So they're composting in the garden with worms, because the worms just go in and out and well, they will go out. They will go out. Yeah. But then they'll come in for the feed and then they go out. Because if you just got food scraps in there, they also need carbonous material. These worms are called composting worms. That's because they need a compost type of an atmosphere for them to eat. Not only do they need the nitrogenous material like your waste scraps, but then they need some carbon material like, what we use here is cardboard, or we use horse manure that has wood chips in it. So we get the carbon in there along with all of the nitrogen. So, but if you're using that worm tower, which is a inverted tower. By putting just the nitrogenous material in there, then the worms come in for that, they go out, they put their castings out in your bed. So you can do that, or you can just put them in the soil either way. That works.
Just drop the holes around the bucket?
Yeah.
Top, bottom, sides?
All the sides, you don't want it on the top, because what you want on the top is you're wanting it to close it up. You're not worrying about sealing it for oxygen, but you don't want, varmints getting in there.
Right, use a plastic bucket?
Sure.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, that works well. Yes, sir.
Two things. Does that be food safe plastic bucket? Does it matter?
I don't know that it really matters. I haven't heard. It's not something that you're going to be eating out of, so it's not going to affect you directly. I don't think so. Food safe would be better. Because of a couple of other factors, but so.
And the second question was, when you spray it on the tea on the plants,
Mhm.
does it have any harmful effects on insects that might be there?
Not directly. If the insect eats the leaves after it's been sprayed on there, then the tea will have chitinase in it, which will interact with the chitin in the worm's structure and will dissolve it. It also dissolves some of their intestinal issues. So you will kill off, bugs that try to eat it. But the main thing is that it's more of a preventative than a.
So I should use it on my butterfly weed or something that the butterflies eat, perhaps.
The butterflies are not going to eat the leaves themselves. Now, if you're trying to get the caterpillars, no, don't do that. Good thought. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah. So yeah, you wouldn't want to use that where you're going to have, something you're trying to.
Don't put it on milkweed.
No, don't put it on milkweed. Yeah.
I don't think milkweed needs any help. Not my.
I think milkweed is still going to be here with the roaches after everything else is going. Yes, ma'am.
They sell a lot of products with the mycorrhiza now.
Mhm.
How does that compare?
Oh, it's wonderful stuff. What mycorrhiza is, it has to do with the fungi. Okay, and the fungi are working from a totally different aspect. If you have good soil and you get out, you're going to see little white strands going throughout your soil. That is fungi in the soil. And those pathways there also make it easier for the microbes to transmit. And a lot of the stuff that is transmitted by the microbes is also transmitted by the mycorrhiza. If you're getting it, make sure it's a good source. There are those, unfortunately, that aren't quite as honest as they should be. And some of the mycorrhizal products that I've seen out there, they're very over commercialized, shall we say, over processed, and they don't give as good as they should. So I'm not an expert on that side. I work closely with the guy who is. I provide the castings and he provides some of the other materials that I use. And one of the things that he's always talking about is the mycorrhiza material.
So you can use both of them together.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they complement.
They complement.
Yeah, they complement very much. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
so you're growing worms in compost. How do you separate the castings out then the bag and sell it?
Good question. Well, I brought some here. You're welcome to come up and look at them, play with them. I don't care. Here. This is a tray that, see, I still do some of my breeding work in the basement at my house. I've obviously outgrown my basement. But, I started doing it there. So this is material that is, it's ready to be processed. It's too wet to do now. I'll bring it around so y'all can see it.
And then how did you separate that from the worms and the compost?
I have.
Oh,
Okay. Now, you notice right there, see that little bit? That's good.
okay.
There will be probably on average, there will be 3 months.
Yeah.
Here's another, I got another, this, I got 2 things of this. Yeah. Let me show everybody this, and I'll answer any question for you. Okay. This, yes. That's very possible. One of the other nice things about this. That's the good. And on average, it'll be 3 months per acre.
Didn't have a sign in it. Okay, that was good. Yeah, I was gonna tell this that. You really am. I got smart. I gave them to the link. Yeah. Yes. I could be persuaded. No, you're enjoying that. We're learning. Thanks. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's what I need to say. My teeth are in. No, what that is, it's pretty good.
I'll try and answer Jerry's question now. Okay, the way we harvest this, and this material that I showed you here is fully processed. That started out as shredded cardboard. And then it had worm feed put in there, and they have eaten it all and processed it. The cardboard is some of that carbon that they need to go along with the other food. Okay, so that's one source of it. You use wood chips, you can use a number of other things, or leaves. Leaves are an excellent carbon source. So, you know, as you get to that point, well, this is too wet for me to harvest because we have to sift it. We have a trommel, which is it's a classifier, like if you go to a gravel quarry, you'll see them run the crushed rock through a classifier. And that's what this is. It's about 11 feet long, 3.5 feet in diameter. It starts out with an 8-inch screen that's about 4 feet long. And we put the material in the front end of it. It rotates slowly, and that allows the castings to drop through. Then as it moves on further down, the next section is a 1/4-inch screen. And that allows us to collect these, well, I just put them back in there, the cocoons. The cocoons will fall through there, as will the real small baby worms. Now, somebody asked about the cocoons, if there's 3 worms in there. Yeah, when the worms come out of that, they're going to be about the thickness of 2 human hairs. And they're going to be about 1/4 to 1/2 inch long. But when they come out, they're already eating. And they start eating then, and they don't quit until they die. A red wiggler, like these worms here, can eat as much as 1.5 times their body weight in a day.
How long do they live?
Depends on circumstances, but in captivity, like what we're doing, 5 to 8 years.
Wow.
So in 5 to 8 years, they go through a lot of material.
Yeah.
Plus, they can breed so rapidly that they will produce as many as 3 cocoons a week. And they continue doing that from the time they're about 41 days old until generally about 3.5, 4 years of age. So they can reproduce rapidly, which is a good thing. You know, they're not harmful to anything that I know of. They don't eat any living organism at all. They will not eat your roots, no matter what they tell you. Yeah, you want them along your roots. But these cocoons, what they do is the worms are hermaphroditic, meaning that they are both male and female, but they require another worm to be able to reproduce. When you go out at night, after a rain or whatever, when the night crawlers are up on the ground, a lot of times you'll see 2 of them together and they're, you know, head to head, and they're kind of tied together with a little bit of mucus around them. What they're doing is they are reproducing. Let me see if I can find these worms. The adult worm, here's an easy one to see. Good. I'll bring these around quickly. You see this group right up here toward the front end.
Is he present?
That's the top. This one, maybe. But patella is for the sexual organ.
Oh.
Yes, a little fat white part. Okay. That's what it is. And that patella is for the sexual organ. So they will. So when they match up side by side, that's, and they match, I can tell them with another one.
Yeah.
And that's when they transfer the sexual, the sperm, from the male part to the female. They both go different. Yes, right.
Yeah, I can finish my reading.
It's all on the sidewalk.
How old is that?
This one is. It's more than 60 days. But I have no idea how
How long for a worm to be fully grown?
41 to 60 days.
That was fully grown.
Yeah, that's fully grown. The European, I mean, the red worm is small. Okay, so now, when they have mated, they bonded together after they transfer the fluids, then they will pull apart, and as they pull apart, that mucus that they formed around each other then will form that cocoon, and it stays on there for about 3 days. That's why you asked, was that one pregnant? I don't know. It might have been maybe 1 day. If it was more than that, it would be a little bit more pronounced, but there's really not a good way to tell. But then after that cocoon then has formed, they will back out of it and it slips off over the head and closes up, making the cocoon. That cocoon will last then for 21 days to several years, depending on the situation. If it's too dry or too hot or too cold or whatever, the cocoon is able to survive and keep the babies inside alive for an indefinite period of time. In the winter, when it's getting cold and the living worms are dying off, they will start reproducing quickly and produce a lot of cocoons that will overwinter and survive the freeze. If it's really dry, they will just stay in the cocoon form until there's rain or whatever. That's why you can find worms in the desert. So they do a lot of that. And then you had a question. What was your question? Oh, the different types of worms. And I'm walking away from the camera again. Sorry, folks. Y'all need to put a tether on. But the worms that you see out on the ground after the rain, the night crawlers, that is a different type of worm than what I have here. Now, I have the African night crawler, and we also have the European night crawlers, but that also is a different type than the Canadian night crawler. There are over 7,000 different kinds of worms. Of that 7,000, there are 7 that are composting worms.
Who are those?
The red wiggler, the African night crawler, the European night crawler, the Alabama, or not the Alabama, the Louisiana swamp worm, Indian blue, and I can't remember.
That's good,
But-
that's fine.
But these 2 are the only ones that we really worked with. I do have a few European night crawlers that we thought we would raise for bait worms. You can't do that and do the castings to, there's just not enough time and they have to be raised differently. So I've got the Europeans, they don't reproduce as quickly as I would like, and they also don't process the castings as quickly as I'd like. So it's a good one. It's an easy one to raise, but
The Africans are better.
African is a larger worm. They can get as much as 12 inches long.
Oh, they eat more.
They eat more.
I like that. That means
But
they poop more.
yes, they poop more, but, and here's one,
Oh, boy.
okay. The problem is, it's a tropical worm below 50 degrees and is dead. So that means we have to heat.
So what kind am I supposed to be looking for? The
This,
red ones?
this is probably your easiest,
Red, what'd you call them?
red wiggler,
Wigglers.
yeah.
Okay.
That's probably the easiest, but anyhow, the Canadian nightcrawler does not go horizontally across the ground like like these do. They can go as much as 6 feet underground. So they will go down all the way and then bring mineral material up from the soil because they are actually an earthworm. These are not earthworms. But the earthworms will eat the soil, and as they come up and down, they're bringing materials and minerals and things up from down low and bringing them up to the surface where your plants can use them. Now, they also have castings that will feed the soil, whereas these are detritus worms or composting worms. They eat dead vegetation. So they will stay in the top 6 to 12 inches of the soil primarily. They will go deeper, but by and large, it's 6 to 12 inches, and they go horizontally on the soil, and they eat the dead things that, you know, leaves, bugs, whatever is dead and underground. And they will eat it, they will process it, and then they will make their droppings. So they're feeding from the top. So that's the basic difference. There's another type of earthworm that goes in the middle that doesn't go as deep as the Canadian nightcrawler does. And I'm not going to get into the scientific terms. 2 reasons. They're in Latin, and I took English for a foreign language. Yes, ma'am.
So I bought last year a composter from Costco. It's about that, and it's vertical. I had the barrels that you roll. Pain in the butt and all the parts rust.
Yeah.
But I seem to like this plastic thing, no metal on it, it's not rusting. Seems to be working. Does it make sense to put some of these red wigglers in there, or should I just let it do whatever it does?
Okay, do you want it to process quickly?
I do,
Okay. Do you want it to process with more microbes than you would have otherwise?
I do.
Admirals.
Okay, and then the other thing I learned at the Forest Preserve, we had a lady that was an expert in composting. She comes every year to Isle of Shade. She was explaining how the fastest way to create your compost is just use a circle of chicken wire and put your stuff in there. And boy, she was not kidding.
Yeah.
You fill it up, you lift the wire off, you move it over a couple feet, put the junk back in, and that rotates it. And I made the fastest compost ever with that.
Okay, and the reason
No
for
worms.
that, you're getting oxygen.
Right,
Okay,
everywhere.
so you're getting oxygen in to cause the breakdown.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
fast.
You've heard of oxygen-free radicals,
Mhm.
you know, which is why you take some of the vitamins and things that you do. Okay, well, it's the same thing.
But the
because
worms
oxygen
will survive though in the heat of one of those compost machines?
If it's something that is thermophilic, no.
I don't know what that word is. We're speaking Latin.
No, actually, that was not Latin. I don't know what it is, but thermophilic just means that it gets above 130 degrees.
It probably does.
Okay, if it does, then no. Some of the smaller ones that don't get that hot, or something that has gotten that hot and has started to cool down, if you add the worms in, then they will help finish your process. If you have a large enough area, like you're talking about with the chicken wire, like if you got a 4-foot circle, well, then the worms can get out to the edges where it's cooler. and they go in as it cools off in the center. So if you look at my leaf pile in my backyard, I don't really officially compost it. I just let it break down on its own. But if you go out there and stick a fork in there and get in, you're gonna find worms.
Yeah, that's.
And it's not worms I put there,
No,
they
they
will
just
come
come.
on her, yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, any other questions? Yes.
They survive the winter then?
Either they will survive if they can get in where the activity is going on and it's warm, where it keeps them warm, yeah, they'll survive. If it gets too cold, they have been breeding. Because in the fall, they will breed very rapidly because they're leaving cocoons behind. So that if they don't survive, that the species will survive. God created them, knew what he was doing when he did it, he created them so that they would be self-preserving as well as, doing all the process. Anybody else?
We'll keep you here all night.
I could talk worms all night, you don't have to worry about that. When I got started with this, I loved it. All right, feel free to come up, take a look at this stuff and grab some of my not propaganda, it's
Yeah.
material.
Yeah, they're handouts here.
Yes, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, These are there.
You got a good shredding machine. I was just ripping it by hand. I never done that.
Well, that works. It's on a commercial scale.
And that's the actual piece, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
No, healthy, yeah.
Everybody, we're gonna form up in about 5 minutes for the business meeting. So get any goodies, more goodies, check the worms out, get some brochure, and then we'll start business meeting.
You can do that very
Just remind you about the raft.
We did talk about it, but then I didn't know what the number was.
Yeah.
You're still doing your raffle.
If it gets too hot, then they'll make it. Yeah, they can do it now or I can do it.
Whatever, that's fine. We'll, I just want to make sure, does everybody have a number?
Yeah.
Has everybody got a number? Let's get a number.
So should I do it in the market?
That would be.
I got it down in three, so.
All right, well.
It's been very.
Hey. Your potato candy is so yummy. Where can I buy your candy? Oh, no, that's really good. Yeah. My cousin is a potato candy. That's really awesome. Oh, yeah. We got you there to this thunder.
I just didn't. All my receipts.
Okay.
Whenever.
I will.
I wrote it all down. I drive Dennis nuts because, I'm not OCD at all. I just,
And I was
I'll probably have to-
I think we're all the way here. I did it.
You have to.
Yeah, very. We'll have to get some for home. You, oh, that's probably be very happy for stuff.
I Maria plant today, but pansies.
Maria.
but.
Oh, Marie Kellogg, yeah, okay,
For, you know, for her
gotcha.
surgery.
I was thinking,
She's in a lot of pain, poor thing.
sounds
Like,
good.
but she took a picture of me with it. And they're called frizzle pansies. They're double, I get them at Wanamaker's. So I was looking for a house plant at, work, and I didn't like anything they had, you know?
Uh-huh.
So I just stopped at Wanamaker's because I had to go someplace down there, and so I can't go past whatever. And they had all their pansies. We don't have pansies yet. So I got her a small one.
No, me neither.
Sounds good.
It's real good. So at least it's taken care of. I don't have to worry about that one.
You're in good shape.
Things like that.
That'll help. You say, John? John.
And, you know, where you're doing.
Lift the table up, we're just gonna move it in position.
About an inch deep.
I don't think y'all-
Because.
Yeah.
And you're not.
About right.
Our individual plants, they don't put it along. When the new TV gets here, you won't have to move so much.
That's right.
And plant on it. Yeah, well, you're, he's just getting.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna turn it on. Give me a big bright eye.
He's offering us a discount for July.
Ah, well, he should tell us that.
Well, we just asked him.
Oh, okay.
He didn't know.
Then I will let you announce that. Whoops.
Oh, you could sound like I.
They take 3 beans for dinner.
Okay, everybody. So we're getting.
But now the worms can eat all the others.
Yeah, okay. I did bring a 5-pound bag here as a giveaway tonight. And y'all have numbers. So I will draw my number. I have no idea whose it is, so the number is 7.
That's not.
Right in.
Oh, yeah, we did some there, we made 1 to 30, so they're connected.
Okay.
Oh,
Congratulations.
The 5-pound bag like that was 12. Appreciate it. I have some with me. So the, otherwise it runs $2 a pound for whatever size. I've got 15, so it would be 30. But, you know, when we're bagging up and you want over 100 pounds, I give you a little bit of a break. And that's something, some were asking if they could get the discount tonight. If y'all want to.
Have you come to our plant sale? I think you have a lot of business there.
I would, if I can schedule, I'll be happy to. In fact, I would love to.
Yeah.
I do want to others, so. But anyhow, tonight, if y'all want to get together and, you can pool it together. Normally, I don't do it unless it's bulk, and I don't discount. But tonight, if y'all want to pool together and get over 100 pounds, I can give a little bit of a discount on it. Because otherwise I've got to unbag it when I get it.
Yeah, that's
But, yeah, I don't come to these to try and sell. That's not my purpose. No.
Good.
Well, I won't hurt to say that. I'll put it that way.
The product speaks for itself.
That's the truth.
Now, do we need to take it from you tonight, or we need to pool and get you an answer?
Well, you can pool up whatever you need tonight and, I'll get it for you. Either that, or if you need more than, if you want larger, amounts, one lady was asking about for a large garden. If you need larger amounts,
Yeah.
then I'm happy to work with you to bag up whatever you need in that size. I live in Aurora, so we can work out a way to get together. Yeah, we're not that far apart. I'll be happy to meet up with you. Y'all have my number, you have my email address, you have my website. You can order on the website, or you can call me and we'll work together.
Okay. All right, well,
We'll make a list.
how about we make a list tonight and we'll get back to you with that and then arrange to.
Well, if someone tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. If they-
Suggested videos who are, we want.
Yeah.
Plant sale.
Well, we can
Discount.
We can do that too.
Uh,
Okay, so who's getting some tonight? Who's taking worm stuff tonight?
They're not paying attention.
Everybody.
They're
Hey,
gonna bring
um, who wants to get worms? Who wants to buy worms things tonight?
Oh, no.
Tonight?
Just look around the list, everybody's putting down how many pounds they want,
Okay,
and then we'll total it up and then let them know.
Material.
sounds good.
Where's the cost?
Okay,
What's the cost?
$2 a pound, roughly.
Normally it's $2 a pound. If you get it over 100 pounds,
It's in your best
Um,
interest.
I'll make it $1.50 a pound. That's as good a discount as everybody gets.
You're, I'm gonna ask you. And I will.
But you can have another staff, if you need to do something with the last.
Okay.
Yeah.
Might be a little.
Yeah, if your lunch over that. I'm not gonna get.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's right.
That was like, you already have.
Yeah, that's the way we have to go away. Either red, blue.
It's pretty late too. All right, everybody. Okay, all right. Let's have a 5-minute gardener while they're taking the last of their orders. Anybody have a 5-minute gardener they want to? Say?
Talk about my chair thing now, or should we wait?
Do your t-shirt. That's
Do your
great.
t-shirt.
That's over there.
Do your t-shirt thing.
Everybody, we're taking, your sizes, we're gonna have new t-shirts done with our new logo. So over by Diane, there's a sign up with your name, please check out what size you want. They're gonna be all different colors this year, or for whenever you have them, so I don't know what colors yet, I'm getting them from March. So sign up, there's a card there for Janet, she had surgery, so we want to send her a card. She's the lady, her husband does 1 hour for it. Oh, and has everybody knows about the baby shower?
Yeah.
And I have a kind of a start of a volunteer list, and just to give you an idea of what we need. You don't have to, just to see what areas of interest you're in. So if you could please put your name and mark out, we have no dates or times or anything, just an idea of what we're gonna need.
Or the plant sale.
Or the plant sale.
Right.
Thank you. Or the plant sale. So, put your name and-
Dan, this is the t-shirt he was wearing the other night. We were talking about whether
Yes.
to do this.
Yeah,
And that Bank of America says Bolingbrook, Garden Club.
yes,
So it's the volunteer on one side,
yeah,
and then it'd be Bolingbrook Garden Club and our logo on the other side.
yeah. I want, yeah, I like that.
What size is it?
Well, this is.
That's
the
extra large, but-
Large.
Yeah.
And it is from Gilded, so that is probably,
And that's what, yeah, that's what ours are doing. So they're
Yeah.
really nice t-shirts.
yeah, in Elm Spring, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yes,
Jan?
Yeah. There, so I got a variety, so it's,
Okay.
all I need is the size. Not sure what I got, kind of following my phone now, so. Yeah, there's just.
Okay.
Okay,
Revenue free from that, right?
all righty. Okay, everybody, let's, we got a couple things we gotta cover, like, we gotta have a plant sale update tonight. And, we're gonna have, we don't have any guests, no guests tonight. Okay, so let's do first thing. Again, Jerry, thank you very much for interesting talk tonight. Thanks very much. All righty,
No, not at all.
the first thing up was, what's the secretary report from last month? I sent that out, yesterday, or this morning, actually, apologize for that. Did anybody have any comments, corrections, updates? Thank you, Cindy, for taking notes. Where's Cindy? There's Cindy. All right, can I get a motion to approve it if there isn't any discussion?
Second.
Bobby, seconded by Jan. Great, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Motion is approved. Second one is our treasury report. Dennis said he's online. He was going, I think they were going on a boat outing or something. No, they were going to the beach to watch the sunset. And then they were gonna watch the lunar eclipse. So,
You can be
that is
up
tonight.
late.
It's gonna be up late. That's really late for the East Coast. So I'm doing the treasurer's report. No change for our reserve account, still a base of $5,631 and change. As you see, we started off with $4,939 and some coin. We had a lot of income from the plant sale through the first. We had $1,531 in sales. We have added to that another almost $2,000 of online sales. But that'll be reflected in next month's statement. Some expenses, not a whole lot, website, our last speaker, et cetera. So we have a balance of $6,035.22 in the checking account. Total between the two accounts, $11,666.74. Any questions on treasury report? Can I get a motion to approve it if there's not?
Motion to.
Jackie, first, seconded by Mary Ann. All in favor? Aye. Okay, treasury report is approved. So thanks, everybody, and keep, I have the checkbook, so you can turn in expenses. You don't have to wait till Dennis gets them back. I know Jan and Bobby have turned in some things to me. So, so keep doing that. All right, next item is, I think I'm going to talk about plant sale update. So, Dan, if you want me to start out, I'll let us see everybody what we're at with so far. We have $3,521 in sales of annuals online and baskets, vegetables and annual flowers.
And that is ahead of schedule, right?
Yes, that's more than last year. And we still have 2 more days, tonight, tomorrow, through Saturday night. And then we have to turn in our order to the vendors on Monday. So
Thank you, those of you who are here who have ordered. We appreciate you.
yes, and if you are a member, please use your coupon. If you didn't use your coupon, we'll figure out some way to adjust a price for you back, because I know a couple of people that use their coupon. Square now charges us to do a refund, so we'll give you something to buy an extra plant or something like that to compensate if you forgot to use your thing. But we'll figure out the numbers after everybody's ordered. So that's good, and we've had a couple meetings with everybody. So again, if you still know people, if you still want to post anything to Facebook, go ahead and do that. I have one more direct mailing going out via text. We did a mailing at the start of the week, everybody to about 700 people that are past customers, members, etc. And everybody that didn't respond to that one or didn't open it gets a text message tomorrow as a final reminder to say, hey, we're still available. So, and even if you ordered, you can make, if you need to make a second order, it's okay. We'll keep track of them. All right, Jan, Bobby, further updates.
My let's just go around, just to get an idea of your area of expertise or where you'd like to be.
You don't have to be an expert.
No, you don't have to be an expert. What would you, and where you would like to get expertise? How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
So wherever you want to, you can have multiple ideas or multiple places. And then,
We also want to tell you is we would appreciate you to come for any of the activities with the plant sale, even if it's just for an hour. You can't do it for a long time. So for example, when they take out things out of bodies, and if you can only come for an hour, we don't care. We just want bodies.
we just need bodies.
We need bodies. And so we hope you'll be able to help us and during the week for the plant sale, we can do that too. We really appreciate whatever amount of time we can come and help out.
We'll take what.
And then the other thing we wanted to talk about last year, we did something, well, we've done this before, but we did a little bigger last year. We had people donating old items from their gardens that they no longer wanted, like these sprinklers. I had these hangers that went over the rails that held like pots.
Gently used garden,
Yeah.
pots, tools, whatever.
Gardening books, old
Gardening
gardening
books,
things.
yes.
Anything you think. And we sold them really inexpensively, but anything like that is free money. Like I have a whole bunch of containers because I don't know, people like. Sometimes got some free pots, it's raining pots, I'm trying to bring all those to the top. So, but if you think you have anything, you want to put down at your garage or anything, instead of throwing them out or anything, we would love to have that at the sale. And
I can, join you.
so we want you to think about that. So just anything you can do to
And
help
we
us.
will be also asking everyone, not right this minute, but we also need boxes for our plant sale. Not gigantic ones, but any kind of boxes, and start saving them.
Like that one.
Like that one.
Carry-
that
carry
one.
boxes.
Like
Yeah,
that.
that's actually one of the perfect sizes.
Yeah.
Strawberry box, that's,
That's-
yeah.
Well, I would say that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I would ask everybody, keep the boxes at your house. Don't centralize them. Keep them at your house. When we get to plant sale week in that week of May the 5th, then we'll be ready to have them come over to the stage. Otherwise, we've tried storing them at somebody's house and it's not pretty. Okay.
I think that's it though, right, for now, because we don't really have any days and times and, specifics, but we're working on it. But I do want to say one thing that Bobby and I may be very, very new to this. Ron and Linda have been absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
They're good students.
It's not one person.
No, it's,
Person plant sale chair this year. It's a team effort.
Linda's very good at correcting my tired brain. 11 o'clock at night.
We can do it without
No.
their tech, all the kind of stuff that they've given us. And Ron, printing out all kinds of stuff for us and doing, we don't know how to. do
We made a
store.
list for mine, but it's, you know,
So
so,
we
yeah.
really.
But you know what
We
we're
really
seeing,
appreciate it, and we're feeling very overwhelmed, let me tell you,
Yeah, we were.
especially since Jan talked me into it at the meeting.
but you know,
Your idea.
Well, it was last year, I know. No, it was Becky. Becky's actually.
but you know what, in all fairness, what this really is a group thing, you know, if you think about how long we've been doing this, every year, through all our combined efforts, it's gotten better and better and better.
Improvements.
Yeah.
And as you see some of the pictures from last year, that stage was full. Most everybody in the club was there sometime during the plant sale, doing something.
And we understand if you have a wedding or something that conflicts, work it out, don't worry, we'll let you still come.
Okay, Celia's got a question, comment? Everybody, Celia's got a comment.
Yeah, the times, all decided on it. Then we can develop a site.
Oh, we're working on that.
Maybe by April.
By April.
Yeah.
We will have it online, kind of,
Especially for the kids.
yeah. Yeah, and I will talk to you about that too.
That way I can sign, I'll send it out to the kids I'm working with.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
All right,
Thank you.
sounds good.
You're on my list.
All right,
Yeah, we want to talk to Catherine too.
all right, any other plant sale items?
No, we're good. Thanks, Ron.
280 pounds of gas.
Yay!
Oh,
He has 200, you have 210? We've got, yeah, I just take mine off.
We can talk about it.
Okay, whatever, and he'll get it to us, but he doesn't have enough out there to supply our demand.
Yeah, that's okay.
Cheaters.
Yeah, you sold us too well.
Yeah, you guys take this too serious. I have this kind of demand from everybody else. I love it. Okay. It's like I said, I didn't go out and set up.
There is a shelf life, right?
Basically, yeah.
So if we don't need it until we plant our garden, it's okay.
Sure. Yeah, it will dry out and it might get a little crunchy and, you know, it's still lose weight and volume. But when it rehydrates, the microbes come active again. So it's not like the first starting oxygen, they just don't have moisture.
it was the tea that had a real sharp shelf life. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's because the microbes are taken out of their host. So they're just in water, and the only thing we have is a little bit of molasses. Feed them, they don't have the air churning to. And they will live in that condition for 4 to 5 days, but then diminish.
I got it. Okay. All right, sounds good. Well, sounds good. Everybody's good when, then we got,
We got it straightened out.
you got this straightened out. Okay.
Figure that I can bring in 70 pounds in.
Okay. All right, then let's, plant sale, any last items? We will have, the store is gonna go down for a couple of days to re-inventory. We will have excess annuals that we had to buy to fill our minimum quantities with the vendors. Those will be available when the store comes back up next week, so that you could continue, you could buy some more stuff. Anything that's in the store will be available. It's things we've already, will have paid for. We'll also be putting our individual tomatoes that we're growing and ones we know that we'll be getting from Wold House. Those will start going in the store next week also. And still for delivery in that May 9th. Lisa.
There's, column for repotting Mother's Day giveaway plans. Do you already have those plans?
No.
No.
Because I just picked up like 300 plugs.
We were just talking about it too.
Last weekend, so they're like a little 3/4 inch sort of cells, but they need to be put into other
You're
pots.
getting these little plastic, almost like a Dixie cup type thing.
Okay.
And I already talked to Celia and we can go to the museum to do that. We were just talking about this the other day, if you were gonna get.
Yeah, so I've already got a bunch of them. They're, so they're like, multicolored and. Show you about the
There, what,
Yeah.
what'd you say, Marion?
Are they all pansies or they're all pansies?
Okay.
All right, so are you guys gonna organize a
Yes.
event? Okay. All right, I'm gonna go to the seed packing event since we were just talking about being at the Historical Museum. And Lisa, you wanna kind of walk us through a few pictures of everybody? Let's be respectful. And Lisa has the floor.
Last February, Celia was generous enough to let us use the Bolingbrook Historic Museum, to do seed packing. So we had a number of volunteers who brought in, both seeds and just helped pack seeds into little packets for the seed library. So in total, we packed around 730 seed packets, which are now available at the Bolingbrook Fountaindale Library on display, and almost all gone already.
Yay.
It's about 2 weeks. It's a little bit concerning, but the other nice thing that they did differently this year is that they asked us if we could have seats for their, bookmobile too. So then we have another packet there, so then, of course, each of the seat packets has our website on it, so it's another calling card to let them know that they exist, and, so, check out, and get more information from there. Yeah.
And Lisa, when did you check the,
No.
Yeah, it's what I did for free per customer, but it was gone in like 2 days.
now, with, I took,
Today.
okay, because I took about 100 packets of prepared seed over, like on Saturday, I think, and are those gone too?
Yeah, all
Really?
I saw was like.
I think there's a lot of interest in growing this
Yeah,
year.
well, I know they're actually growing it and not just taking it and then forgetting and losing it, because that doesn't do anybody any good.
Okay,
And we do have more cities to pack them all, so I guess we could potentially have another packing party for those.
sounds good. All right.
Around the head.
So the seed library that these are in, here's a picture of it. Very similar to last year, I think. Same setup. That's each side of it, got some nice gardening books there, and then they're advertising our plant sale, and then they have the seeds are up there in that box here at the top. All right, and Lisa, I want to talk about your garden walk. You want me to play this video?
Yeah, if there's time, if not, I know with my crunch time, we can skip that. But for the first garden walk, will be on May 3rd, Saturday, at Lake Renwick, the rookery. If you've never been there before, they've got these, rookeries that are like nesting areas for birds, and they'll have, naturalists on site there to answer all the questions, and you can just, take them to the nesting area, prawns, and, think that bald eagles occasionally visit there too, so. The rookery on Lake Renwick. It's part of the local enforcement.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring this up because it is a short video. At least I'm gonna try to bring it up.
Once an abandoned quarry in Plainfield, Lake Renwick Preserve is now a protected breeding site for birds, including herons and egrets. It can be accessed in 3 different entrances: Turtle Lake Access, Copley Nature Park, and Heron Rookery Nature Preserve. The Heron Rookery Nature Preserve has limited access in the summer to protect nesting activities. The rookery is only open during Saturday night. So plan a visit to check out the nesting structures that are jam-packed with activity.
I'll send you everybody that link out. It's too small to really see on here. And how long is that?
So it's kind of like an open house type of thing, so they only have it available to the public certain times of the year, because they don't want people walking through there and disturbing the nesting areas and the wildlife there. So on that particular day, they're open from like 8 until 12-ish or something like that. But I figured that it would narrow that window down so that if folks under wanted to meet up, we would meet up. But that part is TBD because it's still in May.
Okay.
Get some time.
All right.
Oh, one other thing, if you're interested in orchids, this is FYI, Chicago Botanic Garden is having their Blooms of India exhibit going on until March 23rd. So.
Is the Orchid Man going? All right. Okay.
Can we say, send something out about that one in May?
I will.
Okay.
Sounds good. All right. Diane, you want to give any membership updates, stats?
We're doing well, people are coming through, hey, there's a few there, yeah. But otherwise, we're doing well, and forward it all on to Bill.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
We are going to try to get all the membership stuff done by 30th of April, so we can get it into the state without getting a penalty for being late. You know, it's not good when we have to pay a penalty fee for being late. So, and we always get a few at the plant sale, so we'll be sending that in probably the middle of May, right after the plant sale. Again, membership is still 25 and 45. Once the store reopens next week, we will be taking credit card membership payments again, with a convenience fee, since Square has raised their processing fees just a little bit. There's a $1.50 convenience fee if you want to pay by credit card. Okay, any questions on membership? Birthdays, Dan, any birthday things? I hear you had a birthday this month. Huh? Monday. Yeah, Dan. She was very quiet about her birthday.
Scary. This is grand, her birthday's coming up. Oh, she's over there. April, she's not here today, but she was kind enough to address all my envelopes for the entire year. And they're absolutely gorgeous. And then she put little flags on with the dates and stuff. So it's, and the labels and everything. So I knew it was.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, there was a few this month. I don't have my list with me, I'm sorry. I only know.
All right. And again, that card is going around for Jan Heidi. She was in for like open heart surgery in January, so it was a pretty serious operation. I talked to her on the phone last week, because I hadn't heard about that, and I don't know if anybody else had. But she's doing better. She thinks she'll be back for the next meeting, and her and Charles are gonna be at the plant sale with the all the lawn art again, all the welded lawn art. So it should be.
The card is here by date, if anybody hasn't signed it yet, and I'll put it in the mail tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good. All righty. It is just we got a couple of topics, additional topics, but voting season is coming up. So early voting starts Monday. The library and other places take advantage of it. Election vote, official vote is April 1st. So encourage everybody to do it and vote what you believe in. A lot of good elections going on this time. Everything local that we really feel directly. Okay, and that's the times. If you go to the public library times, that lists times and days that they're gonna be available for voting. Let's see, I think that's everything on that. Additional topics. Tonight is, if you aren't aware of it, lunar eclipse or a blood moon. And this link that was in the video, it's a link live feed from the Griffith Observatory in California. So you can, if you're up at 3 in the morning, you can watch the total eclipse over there, and it goes for quite a few hours, probably starting about now. So it's pretty interesting. That could be another one of those for a year. And speaking of anniversaries, somewhere I came across this today. It was 1 year ago today. I'm sorry, it was 5 years ago today that we shut down for COVID. You know, this was, it's hard to believe that it's 5 years. You know, this would have been our last, I don't remember if we met in February or if it was March that we stopped meeting and went to Zoom, but amazing how quick time goes by. So, okay. We are gonna, we have talked to the Conservation Foundation. They are having their rain barrel thing. We're gonna sell some of the rain barrels, and make that available through the store. We can, and these will be just the traditional black, 55 gallons and 50-gallon terracottas. You can go to the conservation site directly. And there's a lot of other colors and things that you can buy. But if you're buying it through, when we put it up in the store in another week, we're going to have a coordinated delivery. We're going to try to get them all delivered here when the village gets their delivery for their recycling event on May 3rd. That's just before we start taking the stage for that. So anything that we're going to order, we're going to try to get delivered here, and so we don't have to handle it multiple times if anybody's interested. They're probably going to be, what did we talk about? The 55-gallon, I think we said was 80. Was 80?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to pay sales tax, got to pay a servicing fee. The club's pretty much not going to make any money on it. We're just going to kind of do it as the right thing to do. Think about trying to save water with the expensive water, get rain barrels out there. So we have to figure it'll be the same ratio. But it's not going to be. It shouldn't be more than about 7. It's sales tax plus 3%. Basically, our handling fees for credit card and sales tax. So.
And then we can put the downspout.
If you want all the fancy downspout stuff, we're not going to try to order those through us because everybody's unique on those, how they set that up. There's about 4 different major ways that you can do it. I think these barrels are all the top feeding ones. They're food grade barrels that have the drain at the top. So that's real different than the ones that have a tube coming into them. And then your hookups are different for each of those. Okay. Second thing is Taste of Bolingbrook. We talked about doing that last time. We've worked out the logistics with the chamber, so it wouldn't cost us cost us a couple $100 to participate. But the biggest thing is we need to make sure we have enough volunteers for a full day from basically 11 to 9, over at 11 to, no, it says 9 here on the.
It's the.
Till 7, okay. So it's May 31st. So it's yeah, so it's it's a good 8 hours worth of staffing. Not that any individual has to sit there for 8 hours, but we need enough volunteers to make sure that we can cover it. And I'd say
planning sale is 2 weeks before, and now all of a sudden we have another event.
Yeah.
Will you guys be burnt out, or will you be willing?
Yeah. So we got a couple more weeks, I think, before we have to finalize this. But
Is it before our next meeting?
No, what do you know?
what do you? Okay. So think about it if you want to do it. Let me know. Just send me an email that says I'd like to do that. I guess we could actually have a sign up thing. We could put a sign up item up for that. I think we probably need about, I'm going to say six people is probably stretching a little thin. 8 people would be nice across the whole day. But let's just see if we have enough volunteers to do that. It'd be fun. We'll have some we'll have some plants. I'm sure we'll have plants that we didn't sell at the plant sale that are small that we can give out. So we'll have some items. It's always a good way to build our mailing list, for the next year, for next sale, for the porch pot sale in the fall. So I think it's a good thing to do.
We also have the Arbor Day coming in Richmond too, so that's something to think about, volunteer.
Right. And we have the Arbor Day and we have the Library Expo, and happily they're on different days this year. Okay, any other floor topics then from anybody? Oh, yes, civic, because we got two civic items. So I'm gonna, since hers is done first, Jackie, would you like to announce what you guys did in the township? We were gonna do this and she beat us to it.
I wanted television a few years ago at a golf outing for the firefighters. And I had kind of loaned it over to the food pantry for a while so they could have a video playing for our clients when they come in. Well, when I heard you guys were thinking about getting a large television screen here, I reached out to the food pantry and I said, I know we have had some donations. Do any of these televisions work? And they had a 64-inch television. Mine was only a 45, I think. They had a 64-inch Roku television that had just come in, and they said I could have it. So I'm going to be donating it to the chamber, AKA the Garden Club. The chamber is going to provide some sort of hookup to hang it on the wall. But you're going to be getting a 65-inch Roku TV, and it's in my car. I may have to bring it back in the morning though, because the guy hasn't come over from H2O. He was gonna help me jiggle it into there so it could be locked up.
Okay, well, we'll check to see if they're around still when we're wrapping up. Yeah. So that's one of the nice synergies of talking to people about it. We had talked about doing this since as a civic project. And when we mentioned it materialized in a different form. So thank you very much. And so we have some extra civic money, and Mary Ann wants to talk about an idea that she's had.
Okay, well, I found this in the DuPage Township magazine that we get. And at the food pantry, it says they're launching a year of giving, and they're requesting themed monthly donations for items that their clients need, but that the food pantry does not provide. And so it goes by month, and they're asking for different things every month. So say January, they wanted diapers and wipes, baby products, not clothing or food, but just baby products. February, feminine hygiene products. March, shampoo, conditioner, hair products. So we could donate, or I could buy for them a certain amount each month. But then I was thinking it would be nice that if people wanted to give extra, I could bring a basket to each meeting. And as you go and buy your, weekly shopping, if you want to pick up something that's on the list, you just buy one thing, and we'd have that much more, and we'd have nice variety. So next month it says male specific hygiene products, which I'm not.
Ask your husband.
Beard things, like hair.
Men's deodorant.
Maybe men's soap, men's body wash or something.
Irish Spring.
Yeah. Yeah, but they just didn't specify it, so it's kind of weird. But then maybe you get sunscreen products, kids hygiene, and simple outdoor toys. So that, I think that'd be a nice idea. I don't know what you think. Would people be interested in like bringing one thing to each meeting? And then I would use a certain portion of my budget every month to supplement that. And then we could give it to the,
And it's so far to go, we could just go across the parking lot.
Yeah, if I don't even have to go to Romeoville, that would be better.
No, you can give it to me when I'm here.
Okay.
My car seems to be an extension of the township.
So I think that would be a nice idea, and we've given a lot to the people in their own gardens. I mean, we donate from our garden to the pantry, and then you can start money also to give to them. So this is with DuPage, so a little different.
Can we,
We'll still be getting to West Burton.
since you spoke about community gardens, can we put Jackie on the spot that there's a new project coming from the township?
Well, there's an election coming.
Yeah, I know, but let's assume that whoever is smart enough to go along with community garden, we'll be there to say, hey.
Or do you want to talk about that?
Mention it. So most of you know, I'm on the county board and obviously still working at the township. And I have been approached by Will County Green, the people that are helping with the Rain Girls, about doing a community garden somewhere around here. But we have to have a team of people to manage it. And I kind of put a staff person in charge of going out in the community and finding some people that might want to help. And it kind of sputtered and then fell. But we still possibly have a chance. Will County would come in and build the raised bed gardens. They would provide the plants for the first year. They also were willing to plant an orchard and create a compost pile. Now, when we were talking about all of this 2 years ago, we had not yet envisioned the idea of building an extension to our parking lot. So if you haven't noticed, bulldozers and things have moved into the neighborhood. And there's going to be a lot of activity in that area for at least the next 45 to 60 days. When they're finished with that area, then we might be able to get into the back, which is the part where we would be putting the garden and actually get that going. But again, there's an election going on. There'll be a new supervisor, no matter who gets, which side gets elected, there will be a new supervisor. And I don't know whether or not they and the new board members would be interested in a garden. But the most important thing is there has to be a dedicated group of folks to man the garden. And I am retiring June 1st. So I would certainly be one volunteer.
I'm just saying, do anybody here, would you be interested in working on another community garden? Because I was doing a lot at the parks.
Who all works on who all does the village community gardens up there at Schmidt, who's been involved in that? Yeah. And we've got plus a few people that aren't here.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to reach out to DuCap and H2O and some other youth groups to see if there's any interest in learning about gardening and actually being a part of it. But it would be a shame to have all that money invested in building the raised beds and then we don't have an actual team to work on it. So maybe this year isn't the right year, you know, maybe it'd be better now that I'm gonna have some time to work on it to build towards next year.
I know from what we were told last year, they always run short in the park district. There's always more people who want to sign up for a slot than there are available. So that's why I think there will be interest.
And they've had a big growth. I mean, we approached the park district, Hidden Oaks, West Suburban. I think it's been was it about 5 years ago that we met over there and said, we'd like to be involved and grow vegetables that could be donated to the pantry. And at that point, they had 50% of the plots. That was all they were selling. Now they're at 100% plus having a waiting list for the
I
year.
will reach out to Mike Seelick then.
Yeah.
Because the idea would be not so much that this is an individual plot. Maybe we could work out an arrangement where half of what they grow they get to keep and the other half goes to the pantry.
So kind of like Scarce does with their thing.
Yeah.
The idea would be to help
Communal.
supplement the food pantry.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not stating that all of it would need to go there,
Yeah.
but
It'd be
some,
nice if it could be a little bit of both, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, count on, I think a lot of us members would be willing to be part of that. And that's something we're all near and dear to our hearts.
Especially if you have raised beds.
Yeah.
Those we found they don't have that many of them up there. And every time they've added some, they got new people in to use them, and especially older ones that maybe aren't mobile enough to get down and dig around. So the raised beds have been a big hit. Okay, Mary Ann, anything else you want to say on Civic?
No, that's how, we'll send out something for next meeting so that people have a heads up to know if they want to bring something. And then by just supplement it, so we'll start with that.
Yeah, if you send
I think it could start out with January, February, March. Because
Can I make a request to the civic person and to the board on behalf of the youth and working, this is something for you to think about. I'm working with the London High School kids, they are an event called TEDx. It's, everybody know about that. So this is to promote the youngsters, mostly the high schoolers, to empower them to leadership and things. So they're going to hold that on June 12th here in the center. And they asked me to request if we can sponsor with something, whatever. So I'm putting it out there.
What, are you suggesting a certain amount or?
Do they need cash or do they need something?
They need, sponsoring, for food, advertisement, so for the digital board, so yeah, monetary sponsorship and that will use.
Okay, since we got TVs, that was the other half. So I figured we'd, put $500 towards this and it would be divvied up by the month, you know, to buy what they need.
Ron met the leader of the group last.
Yeah, the Rotary thing, yeah.
I told them I would make an official request to, on behalf of them, and if you want them to come on one meeting and talk about it, they're in school, so it's kind of hard, and we run late and things, so.
And you have to know by when do you need this by?
The event is on June 12th, so, yeah, we.
Anytime before that.
How about would they be available to come to our April meeting and then we'll give them 10 minutes on the agenda to start off?
Yeah,
And say that to this meeting on the Thursday, we're gonna have a shortened one. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do plant sale. We'll do a couple of things. We're not gonna do the normal business meeting function. We're just doing a couple of things and then we'll have the baby shower. But that might be nice to let them come and
yeah.
see what it needs to be on their side when they're asking for people, get that kind of leadership experience of having to present to a group that's gonna fund it.
Good.
A couple of them did volunteer, at Bobby's garden last time.
I remember that young lady.
Sounds like a food.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, any other floor items?
No, there's
Yes, Cindy.
What amount do you think you're gonna supplement our donation with? I do have that.
Yeah, I was figuring $500 for the year, so that'd be about $40 per month. We've already missed a couple months because it started in January, but, you know. And then if people just want to bring something, you know, you're not required to, but, you know, figure if you're going shopping, you might want to throw an extra in your basket.
Yep. And
more Old Spice.
Marianne, if you give me that list in advance, then I'll put that out in my meeting notes so that people can see it. And we can also put that up on the website and the store so that if people see it and want to participate, they could contact a member of the garden club and drop things off. You know, so. Okay, any other items? Yeah.
I was talking to Ms. Sylvia earlier, and she asked about speakers. And I said, well, I haven't this year, but she had this great idea for me, for someone to come from the museum, because I don't think a lot of people know about it. And I said, I thought it would be a great, I mean, I was amazed when I was there at Emily's in her seats. It was, so I told her, well, but I thought it was a great thing to have somebody come and enlighten everyone, because I never even, you know, so it was really, really, really interesting. Dennis sent me a thing that they're adding to things. He sent me a link, like last week or something, that they're gonna add to it.
Yeah, I did the story time there today. I counted up to 50 kids, but I can't count it more.
That's right.
It's really. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the space is limited, and the kids were sitting on top of each other.
Good problem to have.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Then can I get a motion to adjourn? Since I think there's last, we have Patty's motioning to adjourn, seconded by Dave. All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you, everybody. Second, you need help?
Gentleman that was gonna help me, apparently forgot about helping me, maybe he got on autopilot, I'll keep it in my car until morning.
Okay,
And I'll just come and I'll clean my wrist around.
okay. You don't need any help getting that out?
Nah, no, we're gonna take it out.
Okay. It's all in a box.
No.
It's just loose. Okay. It's safe. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be fine. And tomorrow, 34, have room for my 30 pounds of paste.
Well, if you don't, we can get arranged to bring it to your house. How's that? Okay. Oh, she's got she is one of our flowers.
Oh, yeah, I give her another name.
Nice job.